The year is 20 BBY. In the expansion region, the isolated planet of Umbara is in revolt against the Republic, following the assassination of their senator. This small separatist gain could have been ignored, but Umbara was unique. Their military was one of the most advanced of any planetary defense force, comprising technological designs which were closely guarded. The Republic couldn't risk Umbara being a launch pad for a separatist attack, located on the Great Kashyyyk branch hyperspace lane, allowing access to Republic strongholds throughout the Inner Rim, and for those key reasons, the Republic would call upon its most veteran units from the 3rd Systems Army, intended to be used as rapid reaction forces stationed in the core worlds, to be sent out to the frontiers to assist overstretched garrisons. But so urgent was the Umbaran crisis that they would be fighting much closer to home. The many thousands of clones would come under the command of Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi, and his second in command, Marshal Commander Cody. The 501st contingent would as usual be led by Jedi General Anakin Skywalker and Clone Captain Rex. On paper, the plan was simple. The strength of the Umbaran military was centered on the capital city and the crucial nearby airbase. The forces under Kenobi and Cody would land far south from the capital, and with help from Jedi Generals Pong Krell and Sassy Tin's battalions, make their way to the capital. The 501st would perform a diversionary attack from the north and cut off any Umbaran fighters heading to reinforce the capital. If the 501st didn't make it in time, the capital would be far harder for Kenobi's forces to besiege. The Republic bulldozed through the token separatist fleet that had been brought in to supply the Umbarans, although the space battle would continue for the duration of the ground campaign. The bulk of the separatist capital ships would be taken out by the Venators and Acclimators. Unlike many previous campaigns of the war, the Republic would make extensive use of the Z-95 Headhunters alongside its larger contingent of ARC 170s. As the Venators took on the remaining fleet in the skies, the Acclimators would begin descending into the atmosphere below. The 3 Acclimators would be equipped with as many LAATs as they could carry. Aboard one Acclimator, Kenobi would brief Skywalker and the clone officers before each taking their teams and boarding the gunships. The 501st lead LAAT had been modified with large floodlights, and all loaded with an AT-RT, the Republic's most versatile personal walker. As the gunships flooded out of the Acclimators, they would fly low to the ground, attempting to dodge the barrage of Umbaran anti-air fire. But as soon as they were in range, the dozens of AT-RTs would deploy from the gunships. Their task was to destroy the Umbarans' advanced hover tanks. Despite the tanks' mysterious weaponry, they were easily dispatched due to the AT-RT's far superior maneuverability. And despite multiple gunships being hit by flak fire, the majority of the gunships were able to descend in relative safety. On the ground, the walkers would clear a landing site for the gunships to drop in the 501st, but as the infantry stepped onto the Umbaran soil, it was obvious the landing site was not fully cleared. The 501st's first objective on the road towards the capital was an imposing ridge, being used by the Umbarans to fire upon the Republic invasion force. For all their advanced and mysterious weaponry, the Umbaran militia was no match for the hardened 501st Legion. Steady progress forced the militia to retreat all the way up to their defensive positions upon the ridge, and so fierce was the 501st's advance, the Umbarans were pushed all the way back down the ridge too. The 501st's first objective had been captured. They would sit tight to await further information on the Umbarans' movements. To the south, Kenobi and Cody's 212th Attack Battalion would come across a much more stubborn Umbaran defense. Many clone units would be forced to ground, and a slow, grueling barrage advance began. The Umbarans clearly thought the larger Republic formation was a far greater threat. This thought process may have been correct for the old militaries of the Republic, where brute strength mattered above all else, but the clone army was filled with dynamic, individual and intelligent commanders at all ranks. It was not just its Jedi generals and senior commanders that set the agenda. This was nowhere more clear than in the 501st itself. Its Jedi General Anakin Skywalker had encouraged his troops to make their own decisions. Back on the ridge, the 501st had set up multiple sets of trenches looking down upon the battlefield below. Despite their temporary peace, they had limited time to rest before they had to continue their push towards the capital. But the Umbarans would not let them gain so much territory without a fight. Small units had snuck behind the Republic lines, getting into positions overlooking the trenches, and when the signal was given, they released dozens of milli-creep droids, which killed dozens of clones. And once the Umbarans opened fire with their blasters, Captain Rex attempted to organise a response. but with the enemy to their backs they had no choice but to climb down from the ridge. While constantly under fire, Rex, seeing the possibility of being boxed in by the Umbarans, called in an airstrike on the ridge. Within minutes, Commander Oddball and his wingman obliterated the ridge, along with all the Umbarans upon it. Just one more example of Republic military dominance. After the 501st mopped up the remaining fighters, they prepared to continue on to the capital. But General Skywalker would suddenly be called back to Coruscant to meet with the Chancellor. Pong Krell would take over the 501st while Skywalker was away. Rex was well aware of Krell's reputation, and although he didn't mention it in their initial meeting, he was also aware of Krell's ability to get clones killed. Krell took stock of the clones he had and decided to continue the push towards the capital. Despite coming under fire from native species, he demanded his men kept on moving. The road to the capital would result in several casualties for the 501st, harried all the way by the Umbarans and local fauna. But with Kenobi's battalions bogged down in the south, and despite Captain Rex's objections, Krell decided the only way to take the capital was a frontal attack. But it transpired into a quagmire. A hidden minefield caused chaos and confusion, killing yet more members of the already depleted 501st. ARC Trooper 5s would eventually find a route through, but no sooner did the forward companies come under attack by the Umbaran militia. Outnumbered and exposed in the open, Rex ordered a retreat. What originally was the 501st's blitzkrieg towards the capital had now led to them fighting the Umbaran counterattack, but the slow advance of Kenobi's battalions will come to their saviour. Clone intelligence had spotted a lightly defended airbase to the west, being used to supply the capital. If the 501st could reroute to the airbase, the Umbarans would be starved of resources and forced to surrender. Rex favoured a cautious approach to the airbase, scouting out and then drawing up a plan of attack. Krell, however, true to form, preferred a more direct assault. Despite his objections, Rex obliged and convinced the 501st to follow his lead. Splitting into 3 groups, they would push towards the airbase, coming under direct fire from impeding assault tanks, one of the Umbarans' most versatile vehicles, but the clones would prevail using rocket launchers and detonators. But the further they pushed, the more the Umbarans would push back. As they advanced further through the gorge that led to the airbase, they came under blistering fire from the Umbarans' most formidable fighting machine, the mobile heavy cannons. Despite their rockets and grenades, the cannons held firm. The 501st would meet their match, and were forced to go to ground. Without consulting Krell, Rex ordered 5s and Hardcase to infiltrate the airbase, steal a pair of Umbaran fighters and use them to destroy the tanks. The plan went off without incident, and with their heavy armour destroyed, the Umbarans put up only a token response in defending the airbase, after which it shortly fell to the 501st. With their only resupply base lost, the Umbarans turned to the Separatist supply ships to access more weaponry. The Republic Navy above informed command on the planet's surface that there was no chance of breaking the Separatist fleet just yet, and that the supplies to the Umbarans would keep flowing. This weapon supply would consist of Separatist long-range missiles. The airbase and Kenobi's positions both came under fire from these missiles launched from the capital. Kenobi's battalions were slowly being pushed back by this barrage, but Krell advised Kenobi that the capital would have to be taken, despite the incoming fire, and so, despite Captain Rex's firm objections, the 501st was ordered to regroup and prepare to assault the capital with full force. Not too happy about being sidelined, Rex looked the other way, while Jesse 5s in Hardcase commandeered the captured Umbaran fighters and set off to destroy the supply ship. The Umbaran fighters were seen as friendlies to the oblivious droids, but when they entered the supply ship they found no easy way to blow up the reactors. Hardcase would sacrifice himself, allowing 5s and Jesse to escape, and in turn destroying the supply ship. With the supplies to the capital gone, Kenobi's troops began to push at ever greater speeds towards the capital. However, back at the airbase, after Jesse and 5's return, Krell was furious at them, disobeying his orders, and ordered them to be court-martialed before changing his mind and ordering them to be executed. But when it came down to it, the clones disobeyed the execution order, and Jesse and 5 survived. Rex was then summoned by Krell to explain his actions, but before they could argue, scouts spotted Umbarans, supposedly in clone trooper armour, advancing upon the airbase. Rex led the 501st out of the airbase towards the suspected enemies. As they engaged, both sides traded casualties, but Rex would notice that the head of a dead enemy concealed under their helmet was very familiar, and as he lifted it up, it was a clone. Rex's suspicions were right all along. Krell had ordered the 501st and 212th against each other. The platoon commander of the 212th was Lieutenant Waxer. After telling Rex that it was Krell who had given the attack orders, he would die. Rex would then decide to take the unprecedented action of arresting upon Krell for treason against the Republic. With ARC Trooper 5's, his own loyal 501st troops, and those of the 212th who had been sent to kill them, they would surround Krell's position in the airbase, with Rex's small group ascending the tower. Krell didn't seem shocked by this turn of events. If anything, he was bemused. For too long, he had underestimated the clones' ability for empathy and independence. That flaw in his thinking would be very fatal. Telling the captain, "I'm surprised you were able to figure it out," for a clone, Krell must have realised the game was up. Force pushing the clones around him and jumping from the tower. Surrounded by 501st and 212th clones, he cut them all down. The clones pursued Krell into the forest, attacking small isolated groups one at a time. But whilst hiding from Rex's group, he projected his voice across the forest, acclaiming to the captain, "You should have listened to the ARC Trooper from the beginning, Captain." A close quarters fight would ensue, ending with Krell being attacked by the Vixus, one of the most unsuspecting and deadly of Umbara's flora. Despite Krell managing to defeat the plant, 501st Trooper Tup would stun him. Placing Krell in the brig of the airbase, Rex questioned Krell on his motives. And although Rex wouldn't know it at the time, Krell would reveal the rise of the Empire and the fall of the Republic. But why Rex never reported what Krell had said to him to the Jedi remains one of the greatest mysteries of the Umbaran campaign. Sergeant Appo then reported to Rex that General Kenobi's battalion had captured the capital and that the remaining Umbaran fighters were heading to the airbase, ordering his men to prepare for a full assault on their positions. But with the Umbarans closing in, Rex realised that if Krell was released, he would be an existential threat to the Republic forces on Umbara. He was left with no choice. As he met Krell in the brig and prepared to shoot him, he hesitated. Despite all that had occurred, his decade of training to be loyal to the Republic was stressed to its extremes. But from behind his back came a blaster bolt. Dogma, one of Krell's few supporters among the 501st, had done the job. Following Krell's death, Rex was informed that the last Umbaran holdouts had been eliminated and that Kenobi's battalions had met all their objectives. Umbara was free of separatist rule and was once again under the Republic flag. The Umbaran campaign remained one of the most infamous and deadly of the entire Clone Wars. Rex would go on to lead his 501st for the rest of the war, and it's very easy to imagine his thoughts after Order 66 going straight back to that interaction he had with Krell. Despite what Krell did to all his men, he did predict the future, and after all, Krell was right. The Republic would fall, and Rex should have been wise enough to listen to him. Hi, I'm Rhino, and thank you so much for watching this video, which took far longer to make than it should have. The reason I haven't uploaded in so long is because I was working on a Battle of Ryloth video, but I scrapped it. It just wasn't up to standard. But if enough people are interested, I might come back to it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this more detailed battle animation. I'm going to try and set myself up for one video a month, but please do not hold me to that. I can't make any promises. But that's all from me, and I'll see you around.